I've got Donnie Walker in, and he's got a story that I found to be very interesting. I think there's some twisty turny stuff in there, which is kind of cool. But you also represent a profession that I haven't had on this show before. So that was really interesting, maybe interesting for the listeners. And we'll talk about that because that'll provide some context to some of the things I'm going to ask you about. But more than that, I just found you to be a really, really good dude who connected with a lot of other really good dudes. And generally when that happens, it turns into a really good conversation. I think value that can be extracted. So you traveled all the way out here from the East Coast. You're here. Thanks for coming out, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm humbled to be in the chair to speak about all the things that are going on right now. Like you said, just getting the opportunity to meet the people how you and I met. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, that's what I gathered from it. That's why I thought it'd be cool for us to get together.
So let's see, where
do we start?
Yeah.
Well, let's first off, I'll tell the story kind of how we met. So, people, that listen to the show have probably heard or listen regularly or heard. It wasn't too long ago that I was on the East Coast, just out of Savannah, Georgia, with the Green Line Tactical Crew, the Airborne Tactical Crew, the Blue Force Gear guys were there. We had, and there was a whole cast of characters that came along with that. There were a few other media companies that were there trying to create some content for some of the things they were doing, like Base Camp.
Yep, Thomas from Base Camp,
who was out there, which was awesome to meet those guys because they've done so much great work across the board, and to kind of be in that I guess kind of on the island with everybody for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's where the magic happens. Sure.
Yeah. And what was happening was, aside from that magic, this was this helo event where we were able to get up in a helicopter and fly around and shoot at some stuff both during the day and during the night. So it was an amazing opportunity. But that also meant there was some basic range time. There was also a little bit of standing around, if you will, as you're queued up, ready to go to get on, and which means there's a lot of time to chat and connect with people. And that's how we met.
Yeah. We got into some conversation there and realized that we had some common ground as far as fitness, the bodybuilding world, because I'm always interested to meet people. And it's like, well, hey, I've seen the show, like, tell me more about your background. And, generally you find either common bond in sport, and talking to you about bodybuilding, I was just like, oh, okay, we're going to have some chats. And then that segued up to the barn, and mm-hmm. we talked for like an hour and a half of just, I
think life experience, right? And just experiences but common experiences and parallels and compare and contrast.
Yeah. And just the journey, you know, and how unique it can be, surprising it can be, for a guy who started out, I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and then joined the Coast Guard, became a rescue swimmer, and then to end up at a training event shooting guns from a helicopter in, coastal Georgia.
Wild, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, is this really what's going on?
How'd I get here?
Yeah.
So I ask myself that question quite frequently. And so you kind of just alluded to a couple of things, and I don't want to say let the cat out of the bag, but kind of set us up, which is good because that's what I was going to do to give people context. So, okay, Scott, so you said that you think this guy's cool. What's so cool about him? I think there's the journey that you just suggested there is an interesting one. And when I mentioned earlier, you represent a profession or a background that I haven't had on the show yet, that I've always been really intrigued by. And it's also, when I say intrigued, it's also been a little mysterious to me because while I live in California, I live relatively close to the coast. I think if people live very close to the coast, seeing the Coast Guard in action is a normal everyday thing. You're seeing those helos go up and down the coastline, in and out of the ports or the bays. You're seeing, some boats rolling around in the more populated areas, out there. And certainly if you're in a fishing town, and we have one of those very close to us here, it's called Half Moon Bay, which obviously Santa Cruz is not very far, and San Francisco isn't either. And we're on the bay, but Half Moon Bay is is a place I like to spend a lot of time. Yeah. And it's deep rooted in fishing industry and culture. And there's the Coast Guard is there and it's very active.
For sure.
So you go up there and you see them and you're like, oh, that's cool. They're flying the thing. And then obviously what was the show that was on TV? The
Guardian.
That one, that was the movie.
Well, yeah.
But I'm thinking about the TV show with the crab fishermen.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. There was
why'd you have to ask?
Yeah, I don't know. I was like the Deadliest Catch. Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
And so those guys were inevitably, somebody was getting themselves into trouble. And there were guys that would go out there in these awful storms that basically were putting boats in danger and people in danger. And they were flying out in helicopters and going out in boats and getting them out of danger. And that's effectively the type of job you had. So I've seen it as seen on TV, but I've never really talked to anybody that's done it.
Yeah, I was going to say those are the things that put us on the map. Deadliest Catch and some of the rescues and evacuations that we did, and then of course the Guardian is the backdraft of rescue swimmer world.
Yeah.
I would say it's mostly a quiet profession. We're a small group of dudes. There's supposed to be about 350 active, but we're running a little bit low these days. I think we're about 270, 300 so active guys. And that's coast to coast doing that particular job. My last unit, Savannah, there's 10 dudes that are on staff there, and that's it. 10 guys for Savannah. Out of Savannah, we would watch from the North Carolina, South Carolina border all the way down to, Daytona Beach, a little bit further.
Oh, wow.
Even. Yeah. So we had a big area of responsibility.
So for people that don't know where Savannah is at the very north eastern tip
of Georgia,
of the state. Yeah. So like you're just below.
You could throw a rock to South Carolina pretty
almost
much.
Literally. Yeah. From kind of where you guys were stationed. So that's a lot of ground, man.
Yeah. So, I guess we could talk a bit like, in Savannah, we run 2 ready aircraft every day. And I believe they do something similar to that out here in, the San Francisco is the one that services Half Moon Bay, but I believe they run a satellite sister unit, down there.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So, we do a similar thing, where we kind of divide and conquer. So we'll send a helicopter up to Charleston every day. We have like a firehouse set up there.
Which is like 2 hours drive time, right?
Yep. It's like 45 minutes flight time. So we'll come in, check in for duty, board the plane, and fly up to Charleston, bed down for the night. And, if the call comes in, it's kind of made you're going to go north, or it's going to go to the south crew. And that's a very busy unit. So think about 10 guys that's the responsibility. And then you're going to have 2 guys standing duty every 24 hours. So you're at work a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the other things that comes to mind when I think about where I've seen it or where it's come up for me, that is Coast Guard rescue swimmers. And I think the work that you did would be like the hurricanes that we see in the Southlands. Sure. Particularly Katrina was a big one. I mean, obviously they brought in the Guard and a lot of other federal and state agencies, but Coast Guard was really busy. Were you involved in that at all?
So for Katrina, I was just a young buck, man. I was stationed up in Sitka, Alaska at that time. I was my primary responsibility was cleaning pots and pans and burnt up bake sheets for the cooks. I was
doing time, putting in your time,
putting in my time. Painting fences, going out on small boats, and supporting those guys and supporting that mission. I think it was probably one of the first times where, the guys from the Sitka unit went down and were in the rotation. Everybody sent dudes. It was like the Super Bowl of search and rescue. So lots of stories came back out of that, and everybody Coast Guard wide, aviation units got a special commendation for it and had a little hurricane pin on it and everything. And I think that was the first time I ever really bought into the whole, we move as one, we're all a team. Even me washing dishes at that time up in the scullery in Alaska.
You had a job to do.
And I was still supporting those guys. And I was supporting the mission, and and I had big buy-in. That was also the time where I was getting to know those guys that worked in that shop. And, those first role models, those first examples of where do you want to be, you know? And geez, that's kind of the start of the long road to hoe there, from washing dishes to doing the mission.
Well, let's talk about it. So let's go back a little bit. So let's backtrack just a hair and talk about how you got there. You know, and I ask this question often, like, you can kind of start wherever you want and finish wherever you want, but you have to be patient because I'll likely cut you off to ask questions. That's like my thing. But like, where does the Coast Guard show up for you in life? Like, what does it look like? What does life look like that before? How did you get there? And then we can kind of maybe circle back to some of the things you were doing there, because I have lots of questions.
Yeah. I mean, even as the story's kind of wild. So like, even as I sit here, I'm trying to like, where, you know, how do we start? How do we get there? Let's see. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama. So, you know, the Gulf Coast. I grew up around the water, you know, so I had a love for the ocean. My neighbor had a swimming pool. He taught me how to swim. And then, let's see, from there, I played sports my whole life. I, you know, was a part of, I did traveling soccer. I ran cross country, and to some success. And, you know, I guess there was a time period where I wasn't about sports and wasn't about athletics and was more about having a good time in life. And then there became a point where I was tired of having a good time and I was looking to get back to doing something serious and something that had some meaning to it. Found out about the Coast Guard rescue swimmer job and signed up. You sign up, you go to boot camp. Once you're through boot camp, you'll get an assignment. The way it worked for me is you're not going to like go straight into the job or, you know, get a crack at it right out the gate. You're going to go to a unit, you're going to serve some time, you know, put in a little bit of pay dirt, paint some fences, maybe wash some dishes and get some experience, you know, understand what the service is about.
Okay. So time out for a sec, because there's a couple questions. First off, like, how does the Coast Guard come into this? Like, is this, because that's not something, again, I've had other coasties on the show, but we haven't really talked about that. And they were reservists, by the way. So
why was that a choice for me?
Yeah, why was that a choice for you? And by the way, like, when you look at it, you know, I talked to a lot of guys, and they're usually very honest about it. You know, when I ask them, like, so why the SEALs, or why the Rangers, or why, you know, a police officer, why a firefighter? Because I thought that was the coolest thing to do. And of course, like, I watched Backdraft. And so like, that's why I want to be a New York City firefighter, right? Going back to your statement earlier or whatever.
Yeah. So, Backdraft, classics. Man, totally. You know, I was pretty lost in life and looking to be found. And so, I had won some things, like, you know, when I had done sports before. So you're an athlete. I was an athlete. I had reached some pinnacle points, you know, as far as like, you know, state championships. I was a county champion cross country runner. So I had some accolades. And so I knew what it was like to be not just a part of things, but be a part of the best of things. And then, yeah, I mean, geez, I'd just been partying and talking a bunch of trash. And then I think a good friend of mine came in the next day and threw down every pamphlet for every armed forces and was like, here, homeboy, if you're such a really badass, you know, like, put your money where your mouth is.
Love it. Yeah.
And
dudes will be dudes.
Dudes will dude. And I opened up the trifold and, like, you know, geez, I was probably like 145 pounds holding a wet blanket. Yeah. And I was like, the hardest job in the Coast Guard, that one.
That's the one I want.
The one I'll go do.
Well, so the Coast Guard is an interesting choice in and of itself, because when people think, I'm just going to be honest, people think armed forces, the Coast Guard does not come up very often. Right?
So my dad,
and I think it's very misunderstood, and people just don't know what the Coast Guard does. So, anyways, maybe we could talk about that.
Sam Houston included.
Yes, Houston included. My buddy Sam.
So, yeah, I owed him that one. Yeah. But anyhow, so my dad was in the Coast Guard. He served for about 3 or 4 years. So growing up, there's a little spot over on the bookcase that had like books from Antarctica and New Zealand, my dad's ribbon placard, coins, and just, paraphernalia.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all these pictures of him standing on icebergs and just wild shit to me as a kid.
Right.
So I think there was two draws. One, there was a little bit of family business there with the Coast Guard. And then two, the blurb about being a rescue swimmer in that trifold was, a life of health and fitness, which I could relate to. And as well as, giving back and,
serving.
Yeah, service and doing some good. And of course, at that time where I was in life, I was just more concerned with doing the cool guy thing. And it was definitely the coolest thing.
That sounds very normal to me, man.
Folder. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super normal.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry. I mean, how many dudes have gone through the similar process, right? Athletes in high school, open the brochure up and go, I want to be that guy, right?
For sure.
And weren't that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cat hanging on a cable outside of a helicopter with rubber fins on, pointing at a survivor.
Yeah.
It's like,
that looks cool.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah.
Let's go do that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the start of the journey. And man, there was a lot of eye-opening moments and humble pie along the way.
I'm sure.
So, because I mean,
there's the physical aspect, but then there's also learning about leadership and learning about being the low man on the totem pole. You're not a snowflake, that all that kind of stuff. I mean,
for sure.
If you can remember, what was the biggest slap in the face? Because everybody's got one of those. Right when you get in there, what was the biggest slap in the face out of the gate that was like, oh, this shit's real. I didn't see that coming. I need to get my shit together.
There was a couple, I would say. So I was, my background as far as athletics at the time, I had been a cross-country runner, track. I'd played soccer, travel ball. So I was fit and I'd always been athletic, but I never swam in a pool it's
going to be an important part of this.
Yeah. It was a minor oversight at the time, how hard could it be? So I did my first down and back in a lap in a pool, and I touched the wall and stood up and was like, bro.
Felt like you were drowning, controlled drowning.
This is going to be a long road to hoe.
Right.
And,
because you got to learn how to swim right or correctly.
Yeah. Who knew about that? I didn't even know that was a thing. I got to know some of the guys in the shop and found out that I wasn't, too far off of some other brothers, that swimming wasn't the primary mission before they showed up to the Coast Guard to be rescue swimmers themselves. So, I wasn't totally off the mark. So I reached out to anybody that, was in that unit that would help me learn how to swim. So I started and just kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. I would say the thing that continued to come back and bite me in the ass was probably the partying. And
still doing that.
So yeah.
You're still doing that at this time.
So I'm still partying, I thought that I'd go through boot camp and that would just, solve all my issues and I'd come out the other side like a whole person, just wasn't the case, man.
Yeah.
There was more work to be done there. But once I decided that was the other, second epiphany. I had a friend at the time, he was an active rescue swimmer at the unit, and he was just like, hey man, you keep saying that you want to do this thing and you talk it really well, but you're not doing the things to actually do it. And it was, I still think about it to this day.
It was the thing.
Chicken skin and all.
Yeah.
And, I think shortly after that, I probably got in trouble another time. And then I finally decided that I had had enough. And, I put the plug in the jug, as they say. And that was about 18 and a half years ago.
Oh, nice.
And that's just been the way it's been ever since.
It's life changer. Yeah.
Man, it's amazing. You try to, complete goals in your life and you start to let's just say you have it all teed up and you're in your backswing and you think you're fixing to crush this ball. And then the wind comes along and just blows the ball off the tee. That would be that was how drinking was for me.
Oh, wow.
No matter how close I could get to, I'm just about to crush this goal out of the park and
done.
Yeah. And then I would just blow it all to
self-destruct.
smithereens,
Self-destruct.
So But once I decided that, that goal of being a rescue swimmer was more important than hanging out in the bars and drinking beers with the boys, things started happening.
So
imagine that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So let's talk about the life of a rescue swimmer. I mean, you just mentioned kind of what it looked like at the last duty station there in Savannah or whatever, but walk me through like what this is like, because, and so here's my take on, or my outside perspective kind of looking at it. First off, this is a life in aviation for you.
Yep.
So that adds a whole different kind of aspect to this. This isn't just we're riding around in water going vessels. We are in the air, which
high level of professionalism.
So you become an aviator.
For sure.
And that's a step in this process. Obviously, the swimming piece is important, right? Because you're going to be dropped in the drink somewhere, somehow, under some really probably harrowing conditions, which I want to kind of maybe get some perspective on that. Like, do I have the right perspective? So that's kind of the thing. The other part of this is you're part of an active life-saving unit. So I think a lot of people that I have on the show have been part of active units that aren't necessarily, saving lives. They are in a sense, but they're taking lives, or that's what they've been charged with to do, and protect a community. But, on another side, like if we're talking law enforcement officers or firefighters, that would be maybe the closest thing that I can think about here, where they're having to go into situations and problem solve. But you're talking about a very, I think maybe in this case, like a low percentage type of thing that you mentioned how many people actually do this, right? So it's not like we're out fighting fires every day, right? No. And it's not like you're doing that, like while you might maybe in a city where the structures are similar. You've got these track homes over here, and you've got, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not a firefighter, but this is, again, my perspective. You got this area where it's high density housing, high-rise buildings, things like that. A problem set has a specific, approach to solving it, right? And that fire department that covers that, or that station or group of stations that covers those districts, maybe have obviously more experience at handling those particular things in those areas, and they also might be equipped differently to do that. When I think about the Coast Guard, and I think about being particularly a rescue swimmer, dude, like, what's it going to be today, right? And then how do we solve this problem?
Yeah, and then that's totally dependent on your unit too. So
let's walk through this. Like, what's this like?
Yeah, so a couple things came to mind while you were, so like in Savannah, like you have 2 helicopters that go out every day to cover that AOR, and one guy might get the call and one might not. Mm-hmm. And so you could have a group of guys that, like, there's that one guy still waiting on his case.
Yep.
He hasn't
had the reps yet.
Yep. And, and then when that first one happens, it's a really big deal. And they come in different forms, like an actual water deployment where you're swimming and going and getting people, or it's just like you go out to a big vessel and you medevac a person, a mariner that's on a big ship. Mm. You can go down and they have like helipads, and you can just basically get cabled down. You pick up your patient and you take them to the hospital. It can be a very seemingly routine situation. Yeah.
What was your first experience? Like, what was your first one?
Man, I kind of ticked the dudes off in the shop because my first night on duty, I got a water deployment.
Oh, nice. Let's hear about it. I can't wait.
So, and there's some good stuff. So I'm on duty. I'm in Charleston. I've just, like all my guys have been haggling me to get qualified. So I've just been busting my butt to get qualified on the aircraft and actually stand duty. So there's even a process, like you go through rescue swimmer school, you show up at your unit, you're not the man yet. You've got some more work to do, and more proving yourself to do as well. So at any rate, all that has occurred. I'm standing my first duty night, and the SAR alarm goes off, and we go out. It is 3 people and 2 dogs on a boat in Bulls Bay, which is like right up around Charleston area.
Okay.
South Carolina. They had run aground and lost power. It was a dad with his daughter and a son. Pops had a few beers, and he had his 2 hunting dogs with him. And so I man, first water deployment, bro, I hit the water and I was swimming in that boat like Michael Phelps. I got to the edge of the boat and I was so gassed.
What was the reality of the situation on the boat? Were they in serious danger?
No, I mean, like, but they're out there. It's dark.
Yeah.
No one's coming to get them. They're land, you know, like they were on a sandbar that was completely surrounded by water, like out in the middle of this bay.
Got it.
So like there's no swimming to shore. It's called Bull's Bay because it's a bull shark nursery.
Got it.
So they needed help.
Yep.
They weren't like in, oh my God, dire straits, but their boat they've run aground on the sandbar.
They're exposed. Yeah.
They're starting to get swamped. So at some point they're going to be, you know, doggy paddling it. So at any rate, I hit the edge of the boat and I'm spooled up, you know, 110%. And, you know, I'm Donnie Walker. I'm a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. I'm here to help. You know, and just like, guys looked at me and he said, "Don't come down to my boat barking orders at me, boy."
Oh, are you serious? Wow.
Bro, like, you can't make this stuff up.
Oh,
like,
that's amazing.
Man.
Okay.
And I was just like, cool, gonna reframe.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm just here to help. I'd like to get you guys out of here. How about I take the lady and we get her out of here? And he's like, fine.
He's just mad at the world right now.
He was
He's probably
unhappy.
more mad another dude has to come get him out of the predicament he got himself into. Yeah.
You know, pride's tough. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I take her. She's got a life jacket on. The helicopter lowers the basket down. I swim her over.
Into the water. Got it.
Yep. So you just pull her off the boat, put her into a tow and swim over, and she was an easy day. So I came back, and then at that point, I'm like, all right, well, I got 2 dudes and 2 dogs. Got to figure this out. I don't remember this training scenario exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had
you done anything with like dogs before or animals?
I mean, like, you know, like guys always tell stories or whatever. But like, I mean, here we are with like 2 full-size dogs.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's a different problem.
So but that's the job. You are the decision maker and you got to come up with ideas pretty quick. Yeah. You're the on-scene commander. So hey man, I'm going to bring you to the edge of the boat. You grab the dog and I'm going to tow you. You tow him, you know, hold on to him and keep him up out of the water. And so he had a life jacket on. So tow both of them over, get them, you know, get the guy in the basket, put the dog in with him. They go up. No longer a problem.
Nice.
I'm down to one heavy set Southern
angry
man.
dude.
Yeah. And another dog.
And another dog. Gotcha.
So chaos ensues. So I get Anger Man is back on the stern of the boat, and this thing's like filling with water at this point. And so he's holding on to like a boat cushion. I get him in a tow. We're doing the same thing, him and a dog. So I get him in the water, start going to tow him. He decides he wants to let go of his cushion. He gets pretty heavy. And I think he just kind of like claps a little water in his mouth and starts to shake.
Panic. Yeah.
And so rescue swimmer school, you get a lot of panicked survivors in your scenarios.
Okay.
So this is that whole like, do we really need to inflict pain in training so that, you know, students will learn lessons? So let's just say you wrestle with your instructors quite a bit to the point where like you will do anything to like not have them in your face again. And any rate, heavy misset Southern man started doing his shimmy, and I instinctively just like grabbed and like pointed my thumb out.
Cable
like,
grip.
Yeah. And then gave him the thumb like right in between his 2 ribs.
Yeah.
And he just kind of settled on down. But I mean, like, it was like just instinct. Like he started shimmying. He got that freaking thumb right in the
Training.
rib. Yep.
Training.
Mm-hmm. Training. Wasn't even a thought. And he settled right on down. Got him into the basket. He was rather large, so he was the only thing going in that basket. So now I'm just
You're
like
hanging out with the pooch.
Yeah, I got him by the collar, and he's just doggy paddling. And then the bare cable comes down, and I'm just like, all right, cool. So we're gonna hook up, and I'm gonna hold on to this full size dog, and we're gonna go up. And we get a solid case of the spins on the way up.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and I'm just like going in circles, and I'm holding on to this mutt, you know, and I'm just like, whatever you do, don't let go.
Yeah.
And like,
you made it to the top.
Yeah, go all the way to the top, pitch the dog in the back, case closed.
Wow.
Right out the gate.
And then you go back and you basically does that count as 4 saves or does that count as, I mean, how many saves do we get out of there? So now I understand why the dudes are pissed. They're like, dude goes out first night and he did all the things.
Dude, my brother Joey had been to Alaska and back at that point, and he hadn't had a water deployment yet. And I mean, like, they call like Alaska, it's like getting drafted to the NFL, you know, like it's serious up there, boys. Big leagues. So, I mean, he had gone to the big leagues and come back and hadn't had a water deployment yet.
Had a Super Bowl yet,
Yeah. And he was just like, you're on my shit list, Walker. A super good friend of mine, like to this day. So that was the first case. And then we're kind of off and running, you know, that set the tone, I guess.
So I wonder, you know, just with stuff like that, when you come back from that, obviously that's your first thing, so you don't have a lot to compare it to. But I wonder, like, how's that settle with you? How do you process that when you get back? I mean, this was a all things good scenario, right? Where's your head at this point? Like, how much of the training that you'd had prepped you for maybe what you're about to go through next? You know, briefing and debriefing in your own head, all that kind of stuff. Like, what can you tell me?
I mean, I would say that certainly answers the question that you've had inside, you know, like, all right, cool. I've bought the ticket. I've ride the ride, you know, can I actually do this thing? Mm-hmm. And like right out the gate, I found out that, you know, I was capable.
You're capable.
Yeah.
It's got to give you a certain amount of confidence.
Absolutely. And then also just like that, you know, some people would call it like a training scar. Like whenever that guy started to stir and I handled the situation like quickly and appropriately, you know, that I had a lot of faith and buy-in in my training and our program, you know, because of just how it just worked.
Yeah, that's got to be huge.
Yeah, so
you did the thing you were trained to do the way you were trained to do it, and it worked exactly the way it was supposed to work.
100%.
Versus like, yeah, I'm not sure. And at this point, had you been, I wonder, just like through mentorship or whatever, was there ever a point getting to where that day, for example, where somebody that wasn't from like senior leadership, but a mentor of sorts, ever came to you after training and said, I know what those guys have been teaching you for the last 3 months or whatever in the school you just came back from or whatever. They put their arm around you and they look at you in the face and they go, but let me show you how it's really, really gets done. Did that ever happen? And I asked that because I hear that from other people in other professions coming out of academies and schools and things like that. Like, now, you know, 10% of what you learned is actually actionable. The rest of it is all theory. Let me show you how this is really going to go.
I mean, I think there's some tricks to the trade. I would say, though, that our program is taught by guys from the fleet, you know, that have done the job and have experience.
Sure.
So a lot of the training that we get at the schoolhouse, there's a lot of pride there.
Yeah, gotcha.
But I mean, like there's always mentorship and there's always someone who just like, you know, like, hey man, let's try it this way, or let me show you this technique. I would say like the closest I had to like what you're talking about that comes to mind is one of my older swimmer brothers. I came back from a case. It was like kind of like a boat, call it like a boat crash. And like some people had, you know, kind of gotten busted up and gone through a windshield. And, you know, I'd had to...
The Coast Guard guys.
No, the victims, like the survivors, you know, like, so I had to package them up in like spine boards and neck braces and all that kind of jazz and, you know, airback these people they had struck a channel marker and went way up in the reeds, you know, in the marsh. And so the only person that could get to them was me. So they cabled me in and I got these people out. At any rate, the moral of the story was I came back and like, you know, you have a backpack full of stuff that you do the best you can with. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I want to call the hospital and like see how those people do, you know, like, is everybody okay? And my brother was like,
don't do it.
Don't you fucking do it. You know, like, he was like, did you do your job?
You did your job.
And I was like, yeah. he's like, do you feel good about what you did? And I was like, I did the best that I could with what I had. He was like, that's it. It's over. Move on. Like, don't call, don't wonder, don't ask. You know, you did your job. He's like, what if you called and you found out they were jacked up because of something you did? He was like, could you have done anything different? And I was like, no. There's your answer.
So did you or didn't you?
Oh, I definitely did not.
I gotcha.
Fred didn't really make it
an option for you.
Yeah. There was a lot of F words and fingers and faces, and that hug thing was kind of not. I remember that part.
Gotcha. Was maybe more grabbing you by the ear.
Yeah.
So I hear that. It's interesting, and I guess I never really thought about that as a person that has to show up on scene like that, and you do your best in the worst kind of circumstance, and what you have to go home with, not knowing beyond what you do know, not knowing what the aftermath of that was and what the consequences of that could be either way. It's not something that ever crossed my mind. That's an interesting perspective.
I mean, there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking that goes on in life these days, you know.
Oh, yeah, you don't say. I wasn't aware of any of that, but
something recently I can't think.
Yeah, that's weird. Like, everybody's an expert too, by the way.
Look at that elephant over there.
Just ask them; they'll tell you. Okay, so I that just kind of gives perspective, I think, of like kind of some of the things that you have to deal with as a rescue swimmer. Again, it's not a lot of dudes out there that have done this or do this. There are, but you know, a lot of not people that I get to get in front of. So I think painting the picture for people is important, particularly, you know, and for me, I wonder, like, there's other aspects to this, and you kind of brought this up sort of at the beginning with the fitness piece and how connected you were with that. And obviously, this is not a job you can do effectively or efficiently without making the human performance and fitness piece a priority on a regular basis. I wonder what that life is like. You know, how do you adopt a training program, maintain a training program? What does that look like? Is this something that the Coast Guard's like, this is like being an aviator?
Yeah.
This is what we do. Every time, all the time. It doesn't matter. In the worst case scenario and best case scenario, we have a checklist here and we go down this list of things and we do it that way. And therefore you're being provided that playbook and this is what you do because this is what we know it works. Or is it very different?
So, so most of the guys, like 100% of the guys, are A-type personalities.
Yep.
So even if they handed you a binder of prescribed exercises and smart methods to do it, you're probably just going to do it your own damn way.
Right.
I think so. You know, we talked about this before. You know, on the side, just like everybody kind of has their thing. I think that they get into, and even to backtrack, like, so I would say in the beginning, we're doing it less smartly. Mm-hmm. You know, my initial to get to rescue swimmer school was mostly just do hard things,
like an indoctrination,
build grit.
Yeah. Get your ass beat, learn how to deal with that part of it.
Yeah.
And fitness is a part of this.
Yes.
But it's the mental resiliency, physical resiliency.
For sure.
All that.
But, you know, there's lots of, you know, we were in Alaska, so there was runs up mountains and all kinds of stuff and, you know, lots of swimming, you know, lots of running.
Makes sense.
But like, I wouldn't say that anything was like periodized or...
It's not necessarily preparing you for the actual thing that you need to be doing longer term.
I mean, like, the guys definitely did have there was a syllabus that you went by as far as like you had to swim this distance and for this time and like, and you charted it out and you had to see like some progression. And so like those guys were savvy to that and
got it.
And there were some metrics. So, you know, we need to beat him harder and then beat him harder. And then also like right before he goes, like, don't try to kill him, let him catch a little recuperation and then let them take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, you know, like we weren't sitting down and road mapping it out and talking about it all friendly like. And
got it.
There was lots of mind games, and we can get into that later, I guess.
It's probably familiar, to a lot of people listening, that have served in some type of an organization or institution.
Yeah. You know, all with for a reason and all with a purpose, though. You know, let's see. And so that's the initial stuff, you know, like getting ready, like lots of hard stuff, building grit, coming out of school, you know, well, in school, there's definitely a method to the madness. There's process there. There's that time period though, like was still like a little bit of the old ways of like hard, like we're going to do like 80 push-ups and like, because it's tough. And things are a little bit more smartly now. They've involved a lot of exercise science professionals in the rescue swimmer program. Our pararescue brothers kind of like paved the way on that. And like, we learn from each other. And so there's a lot of intelligence that's interjected into the program now that I would say that it's arguable that it's if it's not as hard, it might be harder.
Oh, good.
That there's a lot of pride in that school and who does this job or did that job.
Yeah, got you. I understand. It's a club within a club, and it's an exclusive one at that.
Yeah.
And, once you're there, you don't want to mess that up. And
For
so
sure.
going into your fitness from there, it's like, what do I do to be able to maintain this? Now you're probably coming out of that thing the best shape you've ever been in your life.
100%.
Right?
I'm like 145 pounds at that point. That was some things that I'd always been told too, was that just like, hey, you're a small guy, like you're going to have to really stay up on your fitness and all that kind of jazz. And so when I showed up at my unit, they were ordering like, mediums and smalls of stuff. And they were like, hey man, you need to freaking bulk up. And,
supersize that shit.
And so I came into a shop, and I mean, you follow suit with your brothers, like their examples and their inspirations. And like, I was in a bodybuilder shop.
Got it.
So those guys were all hitting the weights real hard. They swam some, lifted a lot. So that was what I did. I lifted a lot, I swam some, and I ate and I ate and I ate. And it worked.
Yep. So I think that's the thing. Like, it's like, it worked for you. So, and it's working for them. It's working for me.
And there's a case, a rescue case that comes later on that because of that extra muscle and extra strength and the bodybuilder-esque programs, like
you feel confident that set you up for success there?
Bro, if I didn't have the leg strength, that was a hell of a case. If I hadn't have put on the size that I did, I wouldn't have been ready.
Yeah, so I think that's always the challenge for people. Like,
I assume.
What am I not doing? What's my experience here? What tells me that the thing that I'm doing is the right thing to do, aside from the people around me that are all doing it and seemingly successful? But did I have that one career case where it's like, yep, I'm never changing my mind about this. Like, this is the thing. Again, when people are choosing fitness programs for job responsibilities, when that fitness on demand it's not an option, right? You don't have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're always ready, geez, semper paratus.
Yeah. It's hard to, it's for a lot of folks, I think it's hard to find that thing if they haven't been introduced to many different things. But I think, when I kind of look at it, one of those things is, and you just mentioned, like, strength matters, right? And size matters a lot of the time too, but strength is a foundation for most of the things that you're going to do, including the movement that you do as a swimmer, or anything else that you might be doing. And then obviously the things that come along with that and how you're training those, whether it's endurance or capacity or speed and power. But somewhere along the line, I think people kind of forgot how to lift weights. It turned into bodybuilding, turned into something very different. And you came from, in my discussion from you before, you kind of came from the old school.
For sure.
Yeah, this is old school. We pick up and put down really heavy things.
That's it.
And that's how we built our muscle versus...
Yeah, we talked about this, but I had a problem in my program, and it was decided that I hadn't watched Pumping Iron yet. And that was,
that's right.
That was the issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you're not putting on any size. You haven't watched Pumping Iron yet.
I'm having a tough time bulking up. Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, did you rent the movie yet?
Yeah.
Do you have Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding? Look, I mean, there's so much, value in some of that, right? But you have to lift, pick up and put down heavy things in order to build that strength and muscle. And as a 145 pound dude, those are tall orders to fill. It's not like you're not a huge person, right? So mass moves mass. Also, mass protects you in a lot of ways. It's a survival mechanism in a lot of ways. And so, going back to whatever the calls are and the things that you just want to be in the best position possible in order to not survive, but do the job, right?
So
picking the pieces, like, what do I need to be doing all the time to do the job that makes, I'm going to lift a lot and I'm going to swim some. I love it's very simple, right? Because if it's working, why change that?
And then, I mean, you can, you start to figure things out like, well, if I, lower my rest intervals, and then continue to work, I'll have an elevated heart rate,
build some capacity.
Yep. Yeah. And age also plays a factor, like when you're in your 20s and early 30s, you can get by with a lot, as far as focused training on like cardio or, like capacity. And when you get older, and so there's like kind of like chapters of this where like, there was like the building grit to get to and get through school. And then there's the, bodybuilding to, establish a passion in athletics again, to
compete,
to get through the bulk of your career. And then there's the, hey, we're starting to get a little bit into the later years. We can't get by on our good looks and twinkle in the eye anymore. We're actually going to have to do some cardio stuff. And that comes back in later. And the program also, the requirements for rescue swimmers also changed at a time. So like there's a physical PT test that you have to pass. And, like once you got through swimmer school, you could have passed.
You should be able to do it.
You could do it blindfolded.
The standard's pretty low after that. Yeah.
Well, that ended up changing. And
like to get harder?
Oh, by far.
Oh, wow.
So
we never hear that.
By far. I mean, just like you didn't just have to have like capacity, you had to have speed. It went from you swimming a 500 meter, like cross strokes to like, okay, you're going to now sprint 50 meters down and back. You've got roughly 40 seconds to achieve this. You're going to get a 10-second break and then you're going to go again. I'm probably a little off my numbers, but
I get you.
I've been retired for a year. Everybody chill out.
Yeah. So that sounds like much more like,
you have to actually have capacity.
Data-based, science-based programming to elicit a very specific result, which would be to build speed, power, and capacity.
Yeah. And there's two sides to our PT test as well. There's a water portion and a dry land portion. And the dry land portion changed also. Like, I mean, the old one was like, 50 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, and you had to do 5 and 5 on the pull-up bar.
Okay.
5 pull-ups, 5 chin-ups. And like, there was some other stuff in there, but like, you could always do it.
Not a tall standard.
Negative.
Yeah.
And that changed as well. Like there was, a deadlift that was added in, like some dead hang pull-ups, metronome push-ups. So you couldn't just like short stroke your push-ups. You had to go to depth. And then when it said you could come back up again. Yep. And then, and you'd see some guys that really struggle with that. Our runner, lean, or the triathlete folks, like they got, I think it was like 155 on the bar and you start doing a deadlift and it surprised them.
Yep.
And 155, I'm like, we're still warming up here, boys.
Yeah. It's a build set.
Put some weight on the bar, girls.
It's a build set. Yeah, no, I think that's smart. I think you used the word smartly programmed programming.
Yeah.
But that I have seen. I'm seeing that sort of evolve in many different levels and in different places, and the people that I have conversations with, and they're able to recognize, the folks that I talk to are able to recognize this because they were part of the old program before and they're watching it evolve and maybe didn't really understand it when it came out, but now understand that the variables that they have to control in their training program and outside their training program, rest, recovery, nutrition, supplementation,
for sure,
injury prevention, or just taking care of your body in different ways and your mind in different ways in order to get through that shows up. You mentioned Air Force, the PJ guys.
Yep.
They put a lot into their human performance program, and they're kind of on I think they kind of push the thing a little bit for the other branches at some level, from my experience and kind of the people I've talked to. And they're giving back, and people are learning a lot from this, and it's a slow evolution because it has to trickle down.
Well, and so let's see. I mean, like there's money and red tape and all that kind of stuff, and so when you're big military brothers, the budget of the Coast Guard is, nothing compared to what the Air Force.
Relative to the size of the, to the size of the deal.
So but, so when your Air Force homies, go out on a limb and do this human performance stuff and show that it works, then we can take the data and take it to our people and be like, hey, look, we do similar jobs. These guys even come out and moonlight in our high seas rescue course,
Maybe we should be having a look at this.
For sure. And then that's Exos enters the chat, and that's the human performance school that our guys ended up going down to. And it just kind of started turning the tide. And I mean, things are, necessary because like when you have a shop of 10 guys and one guy gets hurt or two guys get hurt, then that puts so much more load, so you got 10 guys. So every fifth night you're going out on duty, you go down to 8 dudes every fourth night, you go down to 6 dudes every third night. So that's 2 nights a week that you're not home helping out with the family. You're gone for 24 hours.
Yeah, I get it.
So, I mean, I think too, it's this, you talk to the other branches and stuff and like, they're like, oh, I'm getting deployed. I'll be gone for 6 months. They're like, bro, I'm deployed all the time.
24/7. Yeah. There's no off season. There's no,
there's no workups. There's no buildups. Like it's always like, hey man, if the phone rings, like you go. And I mean, you don't have to be on duty. You could be at home hanging with the wife and the phone rings and they're like, hey man, we've burned both crews already looking for somebody. You're the first draw.
And obviously, depending on where you are, where your station is, the intensity, volume, and frequency of these calls can be different.
Hawaii was crazy.
I'm sure.
The warm water increases survivability. So the length of time that you will search for someone can go for...
I hadn't considered that.
A week or more, And I mean, you fly a lot. You go looking a lot.
So... when I look at that, it's sort of comparable to somebody that maybe works in a special operations unit in a law enforcement capacity. In some of these big cities, and I think of cities like Dallas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York City.
Oh, I bet they could relate.
There's no off season there. No. You're off, but you're on, constantly. And it costs so much to get one of these guys spun up to be part of the process. There's so much investment there. And then it costs them so much more to then get them, like now you've been through the training, but you haven't done anything yet. Now we got to get you ready for the thing, going through it. And so if you lose one of those guys, it's a huge cost at so many levels. And what is the cost that to the team and to the rest of the people?
This is how you argue that up the chain of command, like when you're like, hey, we should spend the money to go to this fancy, human performance school. And it's like, well, why? Well, it's going to save you money in the long run because that's all they care about is
at the end of the day. So going back to the data that's being shared, I think this is super important because if they're actually doing this research and they're showing a result over time, that can be shared back down. And then hopefully this is improving the situation for everybody. I didn't want to get too far off on a tangent there, but I did want to talk about the fitness piece and just kind of, how you take care of yourself in that situation because of what you said. That being like, this job is like, it takes a toll. And so I wonder, just as we kind of get through the rest of the Coast Guard thing here, what's the reality of that? Like, how long can somebody stay a rescue swimmer? I mean, obviously bad things can happen, but like what's the average? Like how do dudes?
Most guys go full term,
which is
20-year career.
20 years.
Yeah. So this
is what you did.
Yeah. So I did 20 years. I retired last summer, last May. I would say like I could have gone longer. They
all say that.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Yeah, I was getting there, man. I think like the mental aspect was kind of starting to take its toll. My priorities shifted. I became a dad.
Oh, that's a huge one, man.
And so there was a lot of things. It's been, man, I'm 42 right now and I've been retired for a year. There's a lot of weird stuff happening in my life as far as like the work thing goes. Like, it's been a big shift. And it's all been good. But, I would say for most guys go full full careers. And it's hard on you. Everybody has, a back thing, neck thing, a couple elbow or a shoulder thing. And, for me, man, I got my lower back's got some disc stuff. I got some neck stuff from wearing NVGs and searching for hours. And, the rescue swimmer seat in a 65 Dolphin helicopter is like an ergonomic.
Super comfy.
It's like an ergonomics, like person's like worst nightmare. Yeah. Like, I actually met someone that they were an ergonomist. And I was like, oh, I've got to tell you about this. I've made this joke for years, and I was like, I sit on the floor, my legs go to the left, and then I look to the right, and then you strap like 8 pounds of night vision and batteries head. And a flight helmet to my head, and you turn to the right.
And you stay that way for hours.
And then slightly shake.
The whole time. Add perturbation, as we would call that. Us nerds would call it. Yeah. Sounds, that obviously it's going to take its toll.
It takes its toll. Like there's whatever you're doing for training, whether you're like a triathlon guy, a marathon runner dude, or you're a bodybuilder or a CrossFit guy, geez, do CrossFit guys ever not injure themselves?
Dude, let's not go down that path. I'll talk to my buddy Jacob Hebner about that.
Sorry.
You might have something
I don't mean to offend anybody.
He stays pretty healthy. But I get it. Like you have to pick something. Right.
Yeah. You gotta, you fall into a discipline, or you choose a discipline, and it's something that you're passionate about outside of work because work is going and it's going nonstop. So you need something else, a source, an outlet, in Hawaii, a bunch of the guys, of course, were, surfers show up there magically.
Weird.
Yeah. So odd. But for me, it was bodybuilding. I got into the competitive side of it.
Yep.
And it was really hard. It was a big challenge. And it was also really hard to be a full-time Coast Guard rescue swimmer and maintaining diets and training programs. And that was all I did for a lot of years. I went to work, I went to the gym, and then probably went home and ate and then went to the gym again.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it, I met a lot of really cool people, and a good friend of mine was an Olympian and went to Mr. Olympia contest. It was a dude that we trained together every day for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Other brothers. So
it's a different community too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just kind of alluded to some of the stuff that's happening. So eventually you're like you said, you're retired, and that can be is that something that you gave a lot of thought to?
Ton.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you think it was going to look like?
I didn't really know, you try to have an idea. I thought I was probably going to be a personal trainer for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I even kind of had a side business, helping people with fitness and diets and losing weight and stuff like that. And, I had even started to read some books. I had gone to, was it John Russett? What's his,
Russin?
Yeah.
Yeah. The PPSC.
Yep.
Yeah. We love those guys. I think they do a great job. We support and host them here occasionally.
Yep. I went to one of his courses, to try and, cause it's another aspect, how to, reduce injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I was acquainted with that.
Yep.
So, I thought that it was going to be personal training, and I don't do any personal training currently.
Yeah, so let's talk about it, because this was part of the conversation going all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah,
I just found out all the things about the rescue swimming thing, because I really didn't ask you any of those questions. I was more asking you kind of what you were doing and in this transition.
Yeah, how did we meet?
Yeah, and so because and let me set this up. You were there, part of this experience that we were at. We're going back to the helos and whatnot, but you're there as part of the Blue Force gear crew. And when I walked into the house that we were staying at or whatever, you were putting together belts and kit for, I didn't know why. I had no idea. You're sitting there with Christina, who I know really well, who was also with Blue Force, and I think, I don't know, Size Love might have been in the room briefly there for a minute. And I'm like,
it was the whole team. It was Size Love and Miles. And
yeah, Miles was there. Yep. So I didn't, when I showed up, truth be told, like I didn't have a lot of intel on what this weekend was going to be like outside of like what do I need to bring. I called up Sam and called up Don. I was like, dude, what do I need to bring? Like, dude, you don't even need to bring gun. If you don't want to pack it and travel with it, like we'll take care of you when you get here. Because it's like the full, like it's like a concierge experience. Like I feel extraordinary.
We got you, brother.
But I was like, nah, I want to bring my own shit. Like, so when I get there, you guys are in the room kind of putting stuff together. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I don't know what's going on. I guess we'll find out.
Oh yeah, we had gotten some kit too. Like we had some support and new like pants and all kinds of stuff.
So there's all kinds of cool stuff there. And I'm like, okay, well, these guys are the cool guys because they got all the cool shit, right?
Apparently.
So it was how like and who you were and how you got there. And again, like this is the same time I'm meeting Size Love, and we've had Size Love on the show. We just dropped his episode, or we dropped it a couple weeks ago here now, or about a week and a half ago, I think, by the time we're recording this. Mm-hmm. The point of that is I'm trying to kind of take it all and kind of figure this thing out. And interestingly,
me too.
So are you. So maybe we could just kind of go through without going through all the detail, like how you got connected there or whatever. But maybe the Reader's Digest version of like, hey man, what is going on with you now? Because it never seems to stop. There's all these opportunities. And when I went back to the question, like, what did you think it was going to be like? I'm pretty confident in saying you had no idea it would look like it looks right now.
That's very fair to say.
And this is what I find super interesting, because there's been so many opportunities that I believe you've created for yourself unknowingly at the time. And the moon, sun, and stars and blessings have showed up for you. Going back to the beginning and the, having things teed up and the thing. You're getting a second chance here.
Yeah. It's like,
so let's talk about it.
All right, cool. Take a breath real quick, because it's just like, it's pretty wild. So let's see. I would say how everything's happening is just that, I was taught professionalism by a group of guys, and like whenever I show up anywhere, I just do the thing, and I just try to be a pro, and I'm always putting myself out there, and whatever situation I end up in, I just try to do a good job and be a good human. And that's seemingly paying dividends right now as far as like doing cool things and having a good time. And I would say where it started was a, beginner rifle class with Haley Strategic 4 years ago. We'll start there.
Yeah, I mean,
pandemic.
So that's actually a really great point to start, because what, just jumping in here, I think your journey there started the same time mine did. Yeah. And very similarly, and listening to your,
which that's how we started talking over when we were in our chalks getting ready for flights.
Correct.
We were like, oh yeah.
Like everybody always wants to know. People that don't know me are like, dude, why are you here? How did you get here?
That was it. What was your background? Bodybuilder. Well, how'd you get here? Like 2020. No shit, me too.
Yeah, right. So that was kind of, there was a connection point there about like, hey, the world's a little weird right now.
Yeah.
And I have some skills, but I am maybe feeling not real confident.
Equipped for this.
Not equipped for what I'm seeing happening around me. I don't want to feel or look like a weirdo.
Yeah.
But this shit ain't right. So maybe I should step up my game here a little bit, and you start searching for some training. And so you wind up with Haley Strategic.
Also, like, huge part of the equation is my wife has a small child growing in her belly at this time. So my whole world turned upside down. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, like, I'm sorry for what I said before I was a parent.
You've learned your lesson.
Oh, man. There's some guys that were under my leadership that just like, were probably like,
he doesn't get it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
He doesn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand now. My bad, boys. Anyhow. So my wife's pregnant. It's 2020, the summer of love. Man, I'm looking for a little bit more. I start training with a buddy of mine that I'm real good friends with to this day, and is even helping out with where the story goes. We start, shooting guns and training together. And he's teaching me about firearms, and I'm also teaching him about fitness and all that kind of stuff, community. And fast forward, we end up going to the Haley Strategic class, landed on choosing that just because, they were well known. There was a lot of information out there. They knew about the human performance aspect that resonated with me because that company's actually been through Exos as well. So we speak the same language, I guess. So go to the class. There's a fair amount of classroom portion when it comes to a Haley class. And, I'm sitting in class and taking notes, and they have a lot of they have some like challenge questions, I guess, like, why are you here? And, and they try to get really deep on it. And I just remember jotting in my notebook at that time that I had, I'd kind of lost the passion for learning, and I had just kind of maybe been on autopilot. And I think that was, I was about 2 years from being eligible for retirement. And that was kind of when the light switch came on that maybe it was time to do something different. That it was either, the thought then was either A, it's time to dig in and go harder and longer.
Find another gear.
Or it's time to go somewhere else and do something else. And so for me, man, I'm kind of a spiritual dude. So, I put a lot of feelers out into the universe as far as show me where I'm supposed to go and where I'm supposed to be kind of thing.
Yep.
And, that just kind of that was the catalyst for, where we are today, I think, as far as just deciding to even get out. I started to go to training classes after that pretty regularly. I hit a bunch that first year and then hit even more the second year. Let's see, I guess it picks up speed the first time I go to John Dufresne hosted a weaponized geometry at the Shoot House at Blue Force Gear, which is in Savannah, Georgia. So it's in my backyard.
Literally in your backyard, yep.
One of the big challenges for training is you have to travel, there's hotels, it's expensive. So if you have a training facility that's in your, 25 minutes from your house, it's kind of beneficial.
Especially with the group of dudes that generally shows up and hangs out around there. I've been in that side of that Shoot House. It's awesome.
Yeah. So that was the class was an eye-opening experience as far as what I needed to do to become a more proficient shooter and the reality of moving through spaces with guns. And I was also I got hit by the bug as far as the CQB bug, I guess.
Look, at that time, full transparency, I was intrigued too, because you're doing this training on the flat range, going back to the guy Size Love, who we brought up a few times.
Yeah.
He articulated this really well. And what is the draw to that for the civilian that's been doing this firearms training or whatever else? And I know what it was for me. It wasn't that I was going in because I thought I was going to be clearing houses and rooms and whatever else. It was more of, I've been doing a lot of training on the flat range. We've done a little bit of moving around. I've got some level of hard skill. I had no idea what that meant yet, but
there's got to be more.
There's got to be more to this. What? Let's test it.
Same.
And how do you do that in that with firearms, right? And so, and I wasn't trying to call it LARPing, call it whatever you want. I was just look, there's these things. I've been taught these things. I learned a few things. I understand what the reality probably is that isn't, but at the same time, I don't, because I haven't experienced that yet. So, where can I go? I've been very fortunate to have a couple of, people that have really, I guess I would say looked out for me in that sense. And hey, let's go through this. I'll take you through it. And that said, and kind of going through those things. One was an Air Force guy that I think he probably would prefer that I didn't use his name, so I won't. And the other guy was the Condition 1 guys down in Miami. Yeah. They were in Miami at the time. I think they're doing some different things now, but with Chris Curris and the group down there with Dave and
Dave and Drill.
Dave, who's a
Coast Guard guy.
Who's a Coast Guard guy, right?
Freaking Duffy.
Right. And then he introduced me to Duffy. Yeah. And so here's my point of this whole thing was it was a stark reality to me that, look, this is not a skill set I'm ever probably going to use. I'm never going to be, and what I mean by that is I'm never going to be stacked up at a door, right, and going through and trying to clear this room with 4 or 5 other people. That's not going to happen. However, there were things that I learned about what I didn't know in going through that experience that were uber valuable for
sure.
me, stepping away to then go back to training the basic fundamentals and hard skills to be aware of when I'm doing that. So I'd kind of reached this point and I needed to be punched in the face to go like, dude, you're not an idiot for being here.
Yes.
Right. But at the same time, like, what are you doing right now? And so that, like, going back to the challenging questions, maybe you're asked from Haley that you maybe a little uncomfortable to answer. My reasons for being there weren't really well developed, the first time. So the second time when I went to a different thing, I was definitely more developed. I knew what I was looking for in getting this experience, and I knew what knowledge I was trying to get. And then invariably you get stuff you wouldn't expect. And I got that, and I was able to take that away and apply it. And apply it for me in the ways that were important for me because I'd really gone through that exercise.
What's hilarious is that, like, there has to be all this explaining for, like, I saw a class and I wanted to take it, so I took it.
Yeah. You do you, dude.
For sure.
Yeah. I got an invite by a really cool dude to a really cool place with a bunch of skilled dudes. Like, hate me if you want. Like, I don't care, but I'm taking it. Like the helicopter thing. Yeah. Like, are you fucking serious? Don and Sam called me up and said, "Hey, dude, we got a slot here. There's open space if you can come." What am I gonna?
Is it? I'll be right there.
Yeah. What the fuck am I gonna say to that? Like, if I can do it, like, of course. Is it? Could people look at it as gratuitous? And at some point, do I kind of look at it that way?
So,
I don't care. Like, I had a great time.
Well, so I got introduced to the Condition 1 guys as well. So I'm in the class with Duffy, and as far as I remember, I was the only local guy. And, John's like, yeah, well, if you're, maybe in the area and you have a shoot house in your backyard and,
that sounds just like John.
I know some Coast Guard guys that might be coming up here to train soon. And I was like, why don't you are you talking to me? Like,
he's a sneaky fucker. I'm like, I love that guy.
So he had me at Coast Guard. So I took the class with Condition 1, met Chris Curris and it's kind of off and running with the CQB stuff. But for me, the way I kind of saw it, similar to you, like, it'd be better to know than not know. But ultimately, like, all right, I'm a rescue swimmer. If you say, like, I'm not supposed to take a CQB class because I'm technically a civilian shooter, that would be like you telling me, like, as a rescue swimmer, my training should only exist in the pool.
Stupid.
You're going to just go swim laps, bro. And then whenever the thing happens, you'll be ready.
You'll be fine.
You'll be
as long as you can meet these markers, these milestones or whatever.
But that was not my experience. There's the training that occurs, let's call the swimming the flat range portion. And then, like, there's all the, like, practice operations that we do with the helicopter and the small boats and, like, the additional schools that you go to out at, like, we put our advanced helicopter rescue school on where you do cave rescues, you do, high seas, like, big surf hoisting.
Sounds wild to me.
But I mean, like, so you do all these things to develop all these other skills so that, like, on the day that the phone rings, like, you're well equipped. Mm-hmm. And, like, to me, like, I'm just, continuing the process.
Putting
and,
things
like,
in the,
like, I'm setting myself up for success.
If, like,
if, like, the
toolbox.
Yeah. And also, I had a really good time.
Yeah, wasn't that fun?
I met some cool dudes.
Exactly.
And, like, we told some stories.
Yeah.
And we broed out. and ultimately that was the thing, the training thing, like, kind of, like, set for me. I started to see the writing on the wall, like, I was going to exit the Coast Guard. And there's nothing better than being around a giant table of your rescue swimmer brothers in the morning, drinking coffee and just talking shit.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you're going to miss that more than anything else. And going to training classes and meeting homies and getting plugged in, and getting to know, like, the guys that are on the instructor circuit and all that. Like, that's new homies. That's new
community.
That's new bros.
Yeah.
And, like, I knew that I needed that. It's as far as, like, we talked, man, like, segueing out, like, I would have never thought it would have been as hard as it was to do, to just separate and, like, all right, you don't do that anymore. That's not a part of your life. And it was super challenging. I think that I've been really fortunate that all the classes that I took at Blue Force Gear, I ended up meeting Chris Sizelove. And, Chris has been a ranger he did 22 years in the Army, and
I forget.
The majority of that was at the Ranger Battalion. He was a 175 guy. At any rate, he kind of knows what he's doing. But at any rate, I'm in a class, and he's like, looking me up and down, and he's like, "What's your story, dude?" And starts, we start talking, and then he, kind of comes up. He's like, "Well, like, we have some contractors that work for us, and you do product education, and that was kind of like the first segue of like, oh man, I could get a job like doing some of this stuff or be around it, and it's it could be real." It was like, yeah, I guess like a glimmer of hope, like that there's, because I mean, how hard I fought to be a rescue swimmer and how much that job meant, and then to kind of see like, my life's changing and it's time to go do something else. It's
not exactly a skill set you take into the world. However, we're
like
going to talk about
a life after death.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to do? Like, it's like being a gangster, and one day you decide to stop being a gangster. You gathered some skills along the way, but being the gangster is like something you can continue to do and expect you got some longevity there.
Yeah,
right?
Man. Can't quit the thug life.
Right. So, interestingly, yeah. So that's interesting, something being teed up for you. So that brings us back to the Blue Force gear thing, and that you become sort of you just described it as a project educator. And part of that education is providing content for people to see and kind of take in the equipment and being involved in these different, experiences and things where you can learn about the equipment that's being used, as well as showcase it.
For sure.
And you're obviously telling other people about it there, immediately, but then the story gets told at a broader level, as the example of this particular experience that we met one another at. So, yeah. And how's that going? I mean, because it looks hella fun, dude. Like, I gotta say, like, I'm watching, I'm like, this dude just got paid to come out here and ride around a helicopter, strap shit to his head, right? In the dark, right?
Yeah.
And he's clearly having a good time. Plus he's wearing all brand new shit, right? And you got the camera guys following you around or whatever. This is cool guy shit. Yeah. To me, like, it looks like a lot of fun. And I think the most important thing about that was that I got from, because I see a lot of people trying to do cool guy shit or seemingly doing cool guy shit, but they don't get to hang around cool guys.
Yeah.
It turns into something different. That's not the case here.
Yeah, I think I just kind of refer back to like, I was a professional in what I was, my former life, and I just show up in places. I am professional. I try to be a good dude. And ultimately I just try to be helpful. It's kind of where like, well, yeah, this works, man. I can go here and do these things. And, like when it first started out, it's just going to trade shows and just talking to people about the latest battle belt. And, this is the plate carrier. And if you do this job, like, it makes sense for you. I'm keeping people safe, like, it's more purpose. I think that's, to me, like, I just need to have some purpose. I can't just like exit out of a life that had a ton of purpose and just be a fly on the wall. Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then I just mentioned, like, where do you take the skills of being a rescue swimmer, for the Coast Guard and apply those in the civilian world, sans being the lifeguard at the local cabana club that you're in your neighborhood, or down at the beach or whatever. So there's a little bit of a story here in terms of how this has evolved, which was I didn't find out about till later, which I thought was really interesting. I never thought about that this is a thing. Like, this is
we're talking about film.
Yeah, we're talking about the film world. So not only are you on film for Blue Force gear, like what I'm saying, but there's like this whole other thing that kind of evolves for you, where you're bringing the skills to the table.
So like. All right, so you think that you're going to do the personal training thing, and that, all of a sudden, like, these weird phone calls start happening. Like, well, and like Blue Force Gear is calling. That's interesting. And and then a friend of mine calls me up and says, hey, man, there's a TV show that's filming in town. It's called Fear the Walking Dead. And I've been doing water safety. This is a friend of mine who is a retired rescue swimmer. He retired. We had been at the same unit. We'd known each other for like 3 or 4 years now, and kind of known each other through mutual friends over the rescue swimmer rate is very small. Kind of know everybody. But at any rate, so my bro calls me up and he's like, hey man, we need help. Like we need another dude. You think you can, show up? And then like, it was like on a weekend or whatever, but like kind of on my segue out. So I'm like, yeah, I'll show up. And so I step onto a movie set or TV show set, same, film set for the first time. And that's a whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like people dressed up like zombies walking around, and there's cameras and like, lights, camera, action, the whole bit. And so, yeah, we are there so whenever films are near the water, there needs to be water safety personnel present. And who better to provide that than a couple retired rescue swimmer dudes? We start working films. We mostly worked on like Fear for quite a while, probably about 6 months. Met some good dudes on that show that helped us out with getting into the union and just kind of like opening another door. And that was, it's another opportunity where we showed up, we were professional, we were good dudes, and things happened.
It's funny, like just with your involvement in that, I was telling, I don't think I even mentioned this to Cece. So we were, again, after I saw you, we met you, then we spent a few extra days, right. And we did Charleston, and then we came back down to, I guess we were in Charleston, and then we went to Fort Sumter.
Yeah, Fort Sumter.
Yeah, and so we went up there, we spent a night, and we did that whole thing, which was amazing. The U.S. history out there is very rich. It's different than here in California because history there started about 200 years before history. American history was documented anyways, kind of started here. When you think about like colonization and what was going on in the world at the time and so forth. But the point of this is we were on the ferry boat out, and there was some activity out there on the bay. We were on the first one out that day. So I think there's a couple that go, and there was a couple fast moving boats over there that looked, maybe military law enforcement-esque, if you will.
What's going on?
Whatever. I was like, what are those guys doing? They're hauling ass and look like they're having a good time through the harbor and, whatever else. And it turns out it was you guys working for a show.
Yeah. I don't know if we can say what show yet. It's all good. I'm still learning a bunch of this stuff, but
I remember pointing them out to Callie, the told her, I go, check those guys out. They're having a good time. And it turns out it was you.
So we're working the project for Blue Force and, Airborne Tactical and with Don and Sam. And I get a phone call like I think it was either like a day before we were set to shoot that event. I'm getting all my, tactical gear ready for the event. And then my phone rings and it's my water safety boss, the Marine coordinator from the local area. And he's like, hey, are you busy on, what was that, Tuesday?
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm free. And it's just like crazy, man. Like you'll be doing nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like, it rains, it pours.
Feast and famine, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm free. And he's like, cool, you're going to travel Monday up to Charleston, work Tuesday, travel home Wednesday. And I was like, cool. And and then you know very little about what it is. So you just pack your bag, bring all your gear, and
you're ready to roll.
Yeah. Ready to roll. And we were on the water for that was like a 15-hour day, man.
Wow.
It's I will say folks that don't know anything about the film industry, those folks work.
They're on tight schedules. I've had a little experience there.
Yeah. They work long days and they work hard. I have a lot of respect for them. And then, and there's a lot of crafts within the business, and everybody's good at their craft. Mm-hmm. And, there's, I think military folks can kind of thrive in that area as well. 'Cause there's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Mm-hmm.
But man, whenever it is your time and you're needed,
it's go time.
You better be ready and you better be able to perform whatever it is, whether you're the lighting guy or you're the water safety dude or the stunt man, whatever.
I just think, like I said, I think it's interesting that somehow the rescue swimming thing worked its way back in when I had said, where can you take these skills? And, what a different way to be providing, service to people, still providing service. But look, man, there's a paycheck there, and there's probably going to be some really interesting experiences along the way, like meeting some really cool people, being involved in some really cool projects that, wouldn't be afforded to somebody else who wasn't in the right place at the right time, but also had
capability.
the capability. Yeah.
And I mean, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, I did my career, and now like I have the option of what I want to do and where I want to spend my time. I'm a dad. I got a little girl and I got a new son. So like family is kind of like the priority. It's a new big chapter. And so I don't really take on or do anything that I don't want to do. My time is the greatest asset that I have, and yeah, the things that pop up are good,
Yeah, so here we're going with that too, and it's been a sort of a life of service for you in all kinds of different ways. But one of those other things is being passionate about helping people and bringing good people together. And you're kind of involved. Again, you've been involved in that because other people have brought you in, and now you're looking to try and bring that to other people yourself and be sort of the figurehead. And when I say that, I just mean maybe the catalyst to do it. Yeah. I don't mean the figurehead in terms of your face. I just mean like, hey, somebody has to do this. I feel you're feeling compelled to put together a function or an event that allows people to come together, share some skills, learn some things, and maybe walk away. I don't know, in a sense, maybe changed, but certainly benefited. Yeah. So let's talk about LowCountry Range Days.
So LowCountry Range Days, man. Thoughts become things, as corny as that is to some people. Like, the first person I ever heard say that was Kai Green, which goes all the way back to bodybuilder stuff. Bodybuilder, and so, man, how it starts is I'm going to training classes. I have to travel. a long way for some of them, like I've gone as far as Arkansas. I've gone to Ohio Range Day, so to be a part of these events, like it's, you got to get out.
It's a commitment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, but I belong to a range in my town that could host, multiple instructors, but it's just not in their interest. It's not in their vein. So I'm like, that kind of stinks. So, I'm going to an event. I end up at Atlanta Range Day and talking to the guy that had put that event on, and I had heard that dude was trying to bring an event over to Savannah, and I was like, well, hey man, like I really have a good time at these things. The camaraderie is next level, and I want to be helpful. How can I help? Go to Atlanta Range Day, meet the guy that's running that event, and walk away from there, okay, I'm just going to reach out. I'm just going to reach out and just be like, hey man, like, let's bring an event over here. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to.
I get you. It's a little bit of a tough thing to navigate.
Yeah. Well, can chop it, I guess.
Yeah, we can also cut this out, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
you have some experiences at some range days.
So I go to Atlanta Range Day, and I had an awesome experience at that event. I met the guy who had put that on, and I had found out that he was trying to bring an event over towards the Savannah area. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey man, like I want to be a part of it. I want to help whatever I can do, Gotcha. I'm a retired guy. I'm on the ground over there. I know some of the people in the area. I can be helpful. And, so once I got back to Savannah after that event, I hit him with a couple emails, didn't get much response. And then, we tried to get something going and it just didn't pan out. We'd had a couple of like early conversations though, like where I had reached out to a few instructors. Mm-hmm. I had reached out to Jared Seagraves from Haley Strategic, like the first class I took, which was a big catalyst for me.
Uh-huh. I can appreciate that.
Yep. Jared's the director of training over at Haley. He's a super awesome guy. He's one of those kind of guys, whenever you talk to him, like on the phone, like he just kind of really just settles you down and like puts you in a good space.
I know the type.
He's a good human. Talked to him and he was like, hey man, I'm working on a project with some guys. I'm trying to, bring training over here. I know that you've been trying to get, Haley over here onto the
East Coast. Yeah.
Yep. And I think I can help you. And he was like, keep me posted. I'm tentatively I'm in. And so I also picked up the phone and called John Dufresne from Kinetic Consulting, and so, hit Duffy with, hey man, like, like I'm retired, trying to work on a passion project, got some buddies. He's like, I'm in. And
Your first hard yes.
Yeah. He's like, I'm in, love these things. And I'm like, sick, dude. I go to Chris Size Love at Blue Force Gear, and Chris is like, yeah, man, I'm in 100%. Love doing these things.
You got a little steam going. Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's like, and you can count us in as being a sponsor. And like all this happens within a matter of like a few days. Shortly after that, the relationship between myself and the guy from Atlanta Range Day dissolved, which is for the best. And however, at that point, like I'm on my own.
Yep.
So like I've already made these phone calls to these people, and like I've already got some things going. It's like, all right, well, let's just not abandon ship yet. We've already put ourselves out there. I've already made some like,
Let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah. And I ended up calling Sam Houston because he knew a guy that owned the property, which is
right.
the property from
the location.
Yep. So
it's an amazing piece of property,
dude.
It's wild.
Yeah. The first time I went down there, I was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And that was also, they were doing an airborne tactical class that weekend too.
Another fun group of guys. Scott and his friends are great dudes.
Yeah. And so, they were doing, it actually wasn't one of the airborne classes. It was Thomas from base camp was doing one of his mixers.
Shoots.
So it was bananas.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is wild. So the location was a go. I talked to that guy. He was in, we talked all that out. I had talked to Don and Sam from Green Line. They were in. So I had 5 instructors. I hit up another guy and, just wasn't able to work out with his schedule, but I've not lost hope at hopefully having him at a future event.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I mean, like out of 6 people I reached out to, I got 5 yeses and a sponsor, and I found a location that's, 35 minutes south of Savannah.
Right. It's an awesome location.
It's an awesome location. Yeah. So the owner of the property has wanted to put in ranges, and develop and, monetize his property.
Yeah, beyond where he's kind of got it right now. There's a lot of potential there.
And so like he's like, well, I have this whole area over here that needs to be developed and I've been planning to do it. He said, it just seems like you're going to require me to do it sooner. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah, let's make this happen.
And so, yeah, man, thoughts become things. And so LowCountry Range Days was born. We're a real grassroots company. It's myself. My wife helps me out with design. She's a phenomenal person. She, support from my wife is just, it's amazing.
You always have to have a number 1 fan, man, to get through this stuff.
Dude.
I wouldn't be here either if I didn't have one of those.
Bro, just always in my corner. We just keep pushing forward. And, honestly, I don't know what I'm doing other than just trying to bring folks together.
I love that.
I have an opportunity to do something, and I have been supported by the people in the community to do it. Everything that's happening and that is going on as far as with LowCountry is like I'm being allowed to do it. And I just continue to come up against the next problem set and just work the problem. So I'm learning a ton about like the industry, just communicating with people, facing fears, putting myself out there. I continually try to reach my hand out. I understand that it's a very sticky industry. And so I understand that not everybody reaches back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just, I don't take it personal. I'm the new kid on the block. No one really knows. Like,
you've been there before.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's whatever, man. I know that I have good motives with what I'm doing, and the drive behind it is legit. So I'm just going to keep plugging away one step at a time.
So that covers quite a bit. Let's talk about just sort of like, you've been to other range days, you've done this stuff, and you've seen the things that like I take away from them too, which is the camaraderie, the experience that people get that they might not ever get ever again. That they get the exposure they get to not just whatever the thing is that's happening at the range today with the pistol or the rifle or whatever else, but also the relationships that get built and what that can turn into. We're talking about all those right now. I mean, we're here because of that.
For sure.
To me, those are the real important things. There's the training aspect that comes along with it. And obviously you've already kind of dropped some names there of kind of a who's who kind of group.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, that's always an added bonus. Like, who's going to be there? What are they teaching? And where can I jump into this somehow? But I think, in all my experiences in going to things, I picked up a lot of things along the way of like the how-tos, the how-not-tos, and, how people evolve these things, these range days or these events to kind of cater to people similarly, but different. Because there isn't a cookie cutter. I don't think there's a formula, right, for this.
No.
And so that's a little bit of, I think, what you're kind of being a pioneer in this sense, because a lot of people have tried and failed, or have tried and been semi-successful, or they've succeeded on their own, maybe in their own mind, and failed in somebody else's, right? And in a lot of ways, it's a tough thing to do. It's a massive undertaking. It is. You're trying to get a lot of people in one place at one time to make a bunch of things happen simultaneously, so that everybody has a really great experience and everybody's happy at the end, knowing that is not a possibility, right? Like you can only do your very best. And so there's a grind that goes to this, and there has to be like a quiet confidence and like, I know what I'm doing. The intentions are this. I just wonder, like, just in kind of talking about LowCountry Range Day, there's a few things. First off, actually, maybe the question is like, what the hell is the LowCountry? For those people listening that don't even understand what that means, because I got a new appreciation for it while I was there. I made the mistake of calling it something it wasn't, and somebody basically verbally slapped me right in the face about it. So I'm curious.
Like a swamp, or is this like a swamp or a marsh?
I might have said that word. I might have. I'm not going to.
LowCountry, bro.
I plead the fifth. I'm not going to incriminate myself any further. But like, what is the LowCountry? And because again, people go to these different places, and part of it is the location. And there's the LowCountry steeped in history. So
the LowCountry, I mean, is this, to me, it's that entire region for me, it's from North Carolina, South Carolina border, all the way down to Daytona Beach, because the helicopters I flew on when I was in the Coast Guard, the tail says LowCountry Lifesavers. And so like, there's a little bit of like my history, like, sprinkled into everything. Like we are in the LowCountry though. Like, there's an actual LowCountry, South Carolina, which is just over the border. And like, and there's a little bit of like, what is the LowCountry? But I mean, like, it's that coastal, southern coastal South Carolina and like that, coastal Georgia area.
You're talking about like, so for me, when I look at it, and it looks like, so the term savanna, right? If you could think of like the savanna, but with water, it's what it really kind of looks like. It's high grass, tall grass, littered with trees, kind of in patchy, parts, because there's these just inlets and waterways that wind deeper into as they move west into the rivers and the streams and like further in. And it's all salt water, so it's coming in from the ocean. It really is beautiful, particularly like the sunset time, but it's a whole different ecosystem.
You couple that in with like the old live oaks and like the Spanish moss that hangs in these crazy bright red, orange sunsets that happen over there.
Yeah, like, you don't see that here on the West Coast at all. The other part is like, so you got all the folks that have built, homes out there. They're all on stilts, right? Because they're all sitting up above because they got the tide that comes in and comes out. So it's really interesting area. And there's also like, there's culture there.
Yeah.
There's a LowCountry culture.
You'd say the sunsets, man. Like I always say, like, because like I've traveled a fair amount. I've lived in a few places, like Hawaii, Alaska, I've seen a few sunsets in a few different places. And like I moved back to Savannah. It was my second tour, and I'm just like, man, the sunsets here are off the charts. And it's kind of like, you don't have to go that far to like get a just badass sunset, you know, like I'm flying around in a helicopter, I'm hanging in the doorway or whatever, and like, and I'm just watching the sunset, and there's all these little like tidal eddies and stuff, and the sun is is reflecting off of all of them, and it's just like it's magical.
Yeah, and the thing I would add to this, so again, that's just a really good description of low country. There's a lot of history there, obviously, if we're dating back to kind of the foundations of our country and, you know, the things that were going on with, you know, farming and ranching and how it kind of got to be there. There's some really interesting history there. But this property that you're talking about, this event being on, is smack dab in the middle of everything that we've just described.
Yes.
It has everything.
All of it.
Right? All of it. And it's unique in that sense. And the only way you could know about it is if you go. But anyhow, so that's kind of the low country.
Yeah, we're hoping to get some more footage of it up, because I mean, that's been one of the number one questions is like, you know, where is this place, and like, where do I stay and all that kind of stuff. So we've got some, you know,
get some things to work out there.
You know, like you said earlier, it's like, I'm not trying to be the figurehead, but somebody's got to do the thing with the stuff and put out the info. And so, you know, we've kind of just started doing like the talking head, you know, information dumps and stuff. So we got some like frequently asked questions videos that are going to start coming out to just, here's what's up with the location. Here's what's up with the range. And I mean, like ultimately, like, cause if you Google it, like it doesn't exist. It's not a range. Like, you know, like you don't really find anything. And it's kind of hard to give anybody like, you know, I'm not going to put a dropped pin to it on, you know.
Right. That's not what we want to do.
Native.
Yeah. That's not what we want to do as property owner.
So, I mean, it's being built for this event, you know. Like,
I think it's exciting. I also think it maybe, you know, if I'm thinking about it, like creates a little caution in my mind, maybe, you know, and which I get, and I know you're aware of that, which is why I wanted to talk about it. But if you want to think about all the things that you should be worried about, you could also be thinking about, this is my opportunity to get into an event that is very different than a lot of other events, and not just because of location. And, you know, my talking with you, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you so much, you know, just in general, but about this was, you've shared with me some ideas, and just from a philosophical perspective of how you've seen events be successful, but the other things people could gain from these events, because I think they kind of get looked at very shallow. And it's like, we're going out to shoot. And for a lot of people, that's why they would go, because they may not have the opportunity to do the types of things that they're allowed to do and provided the opportunity to do at these range events. I mean, certainly here in California, we've had a few, and that's the thing. Like, I can't go do this anywhere else. Yeah. So this event allows me to do that. But there's so many other things that can come along with this. And, you know, I think when you talk about bringing people together that are like-minded, one of the things that I would like to think people think about is more than beyond the rifle or the pistol.
Yeah.
So, and that's a thing for me, like, and that's the stuff we talk about on the show. Like, if that is the only thing you're into, hey, you do you, boo, but what else is there? Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, so we're, you know, doing a low country boil, which is, you know, like shrimp and corn and all that kind of jazz. We're going to do basically a big dinner. We want to get everybody together Friday night. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to go to these events. So we try to put it in a space where like you can come on, you know, you only got to take off the weekend, but generally you're going to travel on Friday anyway. So like, hopefully everybody can come in Friday evening. We can all sit down and have dinner together. So if you've been to a training class, you know how it goes. Everybody shows up at first, dumps their bags, and we sit at tables or, you know, get undercover at the range, and everybody kind of starts sizing each other up. And like, who's that guy? Like, I heard that so-and-so, or like, it's an Instagram influencer dude.
And you might think everybody seems to know one another, and you know nobody if you've not been to these things. Right?
And so like, if we just showed up at the event and we just started off training and that was the vibe, like, then I've not done anything special. So like, to me, like, I want to get everybody together so we can go ahead and get that bull crap out of the way, and we can all sit down and have a meal. You know, and I might have some games to play, like, you know, like, I don't know if you've ever been to church and you have to shake your buddy's hand, or maybe you got to say like where you're from, or, you know, like we actually have to engage each other. That's what I want, man. I want people to show up. I want people to mix. I want to get beyond the gun. Mm-hmm. What do you do outside of this? You know, I've been to a class recently, and the instructor there was like, you know, hey, everybody here is a subject matter expert in whatever you do. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, like in the last class I was at, we talked about this. Like, I know that there's a guy who's an industrial electrician. I know there's a guy who digs wells for a living. So like right there, I got a guy who can make me water, and I got a guy who can power up all my buildings, and they know how to shoot rifles.
Good guys to know.
Maybe. I don't know why you would want to know those kind of guys, but like maybe they would be good guys to know.
World's a weird place, man.
Maybe you would want to know those guys too. Maybe those guys are going to be at LowCountry Range Days.
Right.
So, you know, you can smell when I'm cooking here at this point. Like, you know, we all have something to bring to the table other than just shooting rifles. And like, how do we start having those conversations? How do we get beyond the gun? And like, and so to me, I'm like, we'll get everybody together for dinner, and we'll do that. Sam's going to, Sam Houston is going to do a night vision lecture. It's kind of nerd out about nods. Some people have some knowledge of it. Some people don't, but, Sam's a subject matter expert in it, and he's there and has been gracious enough to like, well, hey, after, you know, everybody gets kind of settled in and we get through eating, he's like, how about I do a little night vision thing? And I'm like, cool. I was like, you know, I'll bring my stuff, and, you know, we'll set up some gear, and then
people
we'll
can try stuff out. Yep.
And
that was super valuable for me last time, because I didn't have any of that.
And we just hang out.
Yeah, I learned so much, and I was just hanging out. Like, it was a good time.
Yeah.
It was like a whole different vibe at night, right, than it was during the daytime.
Because we're not training. You know, like we're not training. There's no like, we're not about to plug holes in paper. So like nobody's worried about like what their performance is like and what they look like or whatever kind of bull crap you're going through your head.
You're not wearing gear, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's you know, that's the thing, man. Like, I want to see people get together and grow, you know, and then generally these things kind of turn out to be regional. So like, you know, so far with signups, I've seen Florida, I've seen South Carolina, I've seen Georgia.
Cool. That's
I've
perfect.
seen Tennessee.
Yeah.
So like, we're all kind of in that region together. Maybe like, you know, you show up and you're like, man, that guy's in my backyard. Like, and
now you have somebody to train with.
I've never met him before.
Somebody to train with, call up, hang out with, have a beer with, have a coffee with.
And then the challenge is like, hey, you two knuckleheads, bring somebody else back next year.
Yeah, bring a buddy.
Yeah. You lay the groundwork, like teach them how to set up a belt or, you know, whatever, school them up and then bring them back. We'll all get some other training next year. And then like it grows.
Right.
It's all in theory, but you know, it could happen.
So I love that because there's theory, but I've also seen it in practical application, and I've been benefited by it. And I've seen so many other people benefit by it. I've been closely involved in a few of these things. And look, I think that if all you're doing is coming out to shoot, and you know you train all the time, and you know shooting for you is not exciting, and you want some new fangled, you know, class, or if it's not flashy or whatever else, then you're not coming. Then maybe this isn't the right event for you. You know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're that person that is just always looking for an opportunity to train wherever you can, get together with an instructor that you might not necessarily have access to, as well as other people, and just for the sake of a conversation, just hear me out. Like, you might meet a few people there that could, you know, that might be cool people that you might be, I've met friends for life unexpectedly, you know, going to these things. But I'm also now, I search for conversations. I want to know, you know, what people are doing and what they're into and the different things. I've learned way more about things that had nothing to do with the things that were happening at the event, you know, by just chatting with people and building relationships that, you know, people
we talked for an hour and a half about bodybuilding.
Yeah, dude, like
at a range event.
That's what I mean. Among other things, right? Among other things. And, you know, I had those similar conversations with other people, and similar in that it didn't have anything to do about what we were doing. If you're not that person, if you don't want to be, if you're a little antisocial, or you just prefer not to have the conversation, is that a bad thing? You know?
Well, and like, so, I mean, even if that's the case, like, where else are you going to take instruction from more than one instructor in a weekend? Where you can, you get a sample of like, well, I'm going to get a class from this dude and a class from that dude. And then I can decide what teacher speaks my language. And then you can go down the rabbit hole with that dude.
Right.
And, you know, there's the other thing too, is that like, Jared Seagraves and Haley Strategic, they use the word catalyst. John Dufresne uses the do better.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other instructors always forward. Like these people want to see you improve in your life in other ways than just shooting a gun.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to be better people. And so if I can get the people who want you to be a better people all together on a weekend, get you to come hang out, maybe we can all get a little better.
I love that. When is this thing, dude?
So October 25th to the 27th. So the 25th is the night we get together, we have food. 26th and the 27th are our training days.
Mm-hmm.
I as much as I love camaraderie, I love training. So 26 and 27 are full training days. We're going to train for 2 full 8-hour blocks. We will take a midday break. I'm bringing in a couple companies to just show you like what's the new latest and greatest with them. Like Primary Arms is coming.
Got to have those.
Blue Forces gear. We have to have the support. So like,
got to have those.
I like, the people make the event happen, but the sponsors bring the party, and if you want some party, they got to be there and we got to give them some time. There's some other cats that I'm trying to get to come, that they kind of dabble in some other stuff and hopefully we can work that out. Like it'd be cool if we could just get, if you had a spot where you could go by and do some firecraft for 10 minutes and talk about, that, or somebody who's a radio specialist and can show you like, this is how you, set up a ham radio and a set of trees over here in 15 minutes and talk to someone 800 miles away from here. There's any number of places that it can go. There's a helipad there. There's, like what we can do there and what this event could turn into. It really all depends on the community.
Yep.
Like I have all kinds of ideas of like, like we could do this kind of class. We could do, land nav there because there's so much terrain, like whatever, like it just depends on how much time everybody wants to invest because time is that's our greatest asset. And so if we want to turn it into a 4-day event later on, like, man, we'll do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. So I think that some of the key terms here is like grow. And you mentioned that, like grow together, learn together, grow together. But in order to do that, there has to be contribution. And I see a lot of times, this is in a lot of ways, but certainly in this industry, is people just want to take. They don't want to give anything back. And they think because they spend their money with the company that's giving. No, that's consuming. That isn't giving. And so if you're a consumer of goods, right, and you're a consumer of training, that's fine. With the space, the world is always going to need that. But I think if people really step back for a second and really thought about this, like you have to contribute. What are you producing? And, producing might be producing stronger relationships. It might be producing a better event. It might be producing ideas or outlets for people to find ways to contribute. And so I think like that's been a huge missing piece in a lot of cases here. And I think there's a lot of people that are really trying hard to contribute, much like yourself. And oftentimes are faced with resistance by others because those others don't understand the premise of what I just said.
Yeah. And I'll say too, like, I have all kind of ideas of where it can go, but I will say that like it could go nowhere and that would still be fine with me.
Right.
I got here organically by the powers that run the universe. Yeah. And so like, if there's some lesson that I'm supposed to learn, I'll take that. Yeah.
You'll learn it
and I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to go as far as it goes and
right.
That's it, man.
I get it. And that's what you've done kind of your whole life.
Yeah. I'm just not taking it personal. It's just like, hey man, this got teed up for you. Like we're just going to, that looks hard. I'll pass. Yeah. Thanks.
Right.
Okay.
Or you do just what you know how to do, that's hard. I want that. I want the rescue swimmer thing. That looks really hard. I want that.
Yeah. Damn.
And you've done it.
Yeah.
So I think, and you're starting in the process. So let's talk about that. So it's in October. Yeah. For people to find out more about it, where's the best place for them to go? What should they look out for? How's that work?
So, LowCountryRangeDays.com. So I have a website up. It's got all the information, like we've named all the instructors, but all the actual, like what classes they're teaching are on there. Lots of information, even the packing list of all the classes. Mm-hmm. Instagram, LowCountry Range Days on Instagram. I am starting to trickle out a lot of information on there, and that's going to be kind of like the the short-term disbursements.
The place to go.
Yeah. So like, that's where the buzz is. It's easy to do. That's how we got there. And a lot of the community lives and talks, and
it's a powerful tool,
dude.
Yeah,
I mean, so
when used appropriately,
I agree. And
actually when it's used inappropriately, it's very powerful as well. But
yeah,
there's a lot of potential there. Let's put it that way.
So, I've had a lot of support on there. A lot of guys have been super gracious and helping me, by reposting stuff and helping me get the message out there. Those are those little signals that I get that say hey, you're going in the right direction, and keep going.
Yeah.
When I get emails from companies that are hey man, we're down to support, keep going.
Right.
And as long as that stuff keeps coming in, I'm going to keep going.
That's what I mean about the contribution piece,
yes.
Right? As long as people are giving back or some level to whatever level they can. My thing is, this is where I put this, and I've said this to anybody that I've ever had on the show or that's been to one of these events or that is putting on one of these or whatever else and elsewhere off the record. I am all about supporting these community events for the right reasons. Yeah. And I've seen, when I say community, oftentimes it's pitched as that, but it's really about somebody. Yeah. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I got to be honest, they always end poorly when it's like that. And this is one of those things where when I make a call to action to say, hey man, more people need to be talking about these types of things, to be, I struggle with this word, but I think hopefully people that know me well enough through the show understand what I'm saying, that make things a little bit more inclusive and accessible for those that are just maybe even just trying to dip their toe in the water because they're unsure. And if you're making it about anything other than helping people and contributing to the greater whole, well, then they're probably going to have a bad experience, and you get what you get as a result. And, I always, I say this a lot too, I think people more than ever want to know who they're getting their shit from. I want to know, if I'm spending my money or if I'm making this investment or I'm making this commitment to whatever it is, that I know who's behind this thing, because I've been burned or I've been regretful about where I spent my money or spent my time or whatever else. And I've learned that my time is extraordinarily valuable, and my money is too. And you can speak with both of those things and where you contributed. So it was really important for me, when I heard you were doing this thing, and I know about your experience with other events and how you're putting this together. And again, I think the people that have committed to you speak volumes for their faith in what it is that you're doing, and also their support. Those are good dudes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That are trying to do the right thing, and they're doing that under the premise that the dude that's doing it is working his ass off to get it done. And I don't want to embellish this. I'm just saying that's if it started like this more frequently, instead of, hey, how do we do a really cool event where we have all these cool prizes.
Yeah.
If that's the reason you go to the event, fine, that's cool. To get cool raffle prizes and things like that.
Yeah,
that's cool. But I just I've been to them and they're fun and everybody likes winning prizes, including me. But that's not why I go. And
I mean,
I want to go to events where good dudes are trying to be good dudes, and
we're still doing that. But I tried to make that portion of it as organic as possible.
I love that.
I drive by it's past tense, man. I'm still getting used to it. I used to drive past the 175, Ranger Regiment every day on my way to work. And so, the raffle is to benefit Sua Sponte, which is a charity for 175.
Right.
So, I mean, and it's all building community, trying to that's me trying to reach out to those dudes and just hey man, there's a group of people that are training and interested. Yeah. And we want to support you. And then, maybe there could be some one day in the future where we all need each other.
So you've been on this journey, and just kind of wrapping this up, you've been on this journey, this, and it's taken a lot of different turns for you. Obviously you kind of described that. And I wonder, as you're going through here and things are popping up and you're provided these opportunities, and has there been any light bulb moments that have given you kind of this, I don't know, you mentioned an epiphany in your early stages. Like, dude, you're not doing the right. You're talking a good game, but you're not doing it. Has there been any epiphanies or any events that have sort of happened recently that give you kind of a different level of understanding of where you've come from and where you're going, and maybe the, I guess, bright, shiny moments of this shit's important, and what I've done is important, and I know what I'm doing is important, and that's giving me the light to move forward, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
Like with the event, like I said, it's every time somebody signs up, like that lets me know that I'm going in the right direction. My family is a big inspiration for what I do. Having kids is a big change in me, and like just coming out and like, I don't know, just drifting off and doing some,
whatever.
Not really having any more purpose. Like, I don't think that's the example like I want to set for my kids. I don't want to just be like, I had to say like a one trick pony or whatever, but like, like Pop used to do a cool thing. And then, now I'm, I work for such and such company, and
you're only 42 years old, man. She's only 3, for God's sakes, there's a lot of life left, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's, I guess when it comes to like digging in harder, I mean, there's been other opportunities that I could have, taken a job as that would have been very unexciting, and, but it just didn't feel right. That kind of felt like giving up, like just, okay, well, I'll just go get a regular dude job and, and just kind of fold off into the abyss. And, I know, man, like I want to keep pushing. Like there's more to give, whether that's, whether the film industry thing opens up, and I spend a lot of time helping people there. If LowCountry turns into something, and I spend a lot of time there, or, things with Blue Force, and that industry like opens up. Wherever I'm supposed to be, I will end up there. I continually try to like, just like put out my like, I try not to run a life on self-will. You can will yourself into a lot of places. And I think that's the kind of the, like what you're talking about with certain people that are like, well, how do we do this? And it's like, maybe they don't have any business being there in the first place, but like they kind of will themselves into existence. Mm-hmm. And like, I didn't have a good experience running a life like that. So I try to...
It's not very fulfilling.
Whenever I'm asked to show up and work, I work and both my hands are on it. But like, I try to arrive there organically, is the best way I can put it. And I would say kids has definitely been one of the bigger things too, to just like, you don't understand the gravity of some of the things you do until you have kids. I had a rescue when I was in, so while I was stationed out in Hawaii, man, like you go out, like you said before, like you go out on the case and you do the thing, and, you come back, like, where's your headspace?
That's what I was asking you before. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you come back and you're like, all right, cool. Like there's a plane crash. I go out, I pick up 3 people and a child. I come back, I talk to the news. I do the thing where, I'm like, hey man, we're all one team here, blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's not to say I don't believe that or whatever. And, there's a award ceremony, like, I get this like crazy Red Cross Heroes thing, but it's not until my kid turns 2 that like I really catch like the gravity of like what happened and what transpired. My daughter turned 2, and I'm standing in my house and I'm holding her, and I realized that like that girl that I picked up out of the ocean was 2. And I'm holding this girl, this child in my arm, and I'm just like, dude, you're a big kid.
At 2 years, yeah.
At 2 years old.
They grow
and
fast,
like,
man, yeah.
And man, this speaks to a couple things, like you're when you're in the job and you're doing your thing, you're doing it automatically. And I, 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 got these people out of the water, and I'm putting this girl's dad into the basket, and I'm holding this child like in one palm, and then, sweep it in. It's like, one, like, how did you do that? And two, like, that kid was 2 years old, and like your daughter's 2. And you don't know what kids mean until you like have your own, like, and it was a real, like, this was, that case would have been like in 17. So, I mean, we're talking 5 years after the fact. Mm-hmm. You're like, whoa.
Yep.
I did a thing. Mm-hmm. How?
Well, I think it speaks to, the efforts that you're putting in now and how important, this is what I guess maybe in short, that's the type of dude that is out there trying to put together an event like you're trying to put together. Or when you say I'm trying to show up as a professional and try to do it organically, like doing the job is doing the job, but it speaks to the drive behind it. And I think there's probably a lot of dudes out there that can probably relate to this in somehow, but maybe haven't arrived at that point yet to understand what they did was really important. And now they're not sure how to equate that now. Nothing has showed up in life for them yet to where they realize that. And I have several friends, and I consider you one of those now, that have been through that. And there is a marked difference between those dudes and the dudes that are still on their journey to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes back to what you just said a minute ago, which is trying to will themselves into something that they think they should be doing instead of being open, quite frankly, this might sound corny, to the universe and the things that are actually there in front of them that it's providing them, and they're getting an opportunity to do, yet they've decided, consciously or unconsciously, I'm not going to do that for whatever the reason, because it doesn't fit my narrative, or it doesn't fit the thing that I've already decided is supposed to be happening for me. Yeah. And then that turns into something.
This is who I am.
Yeah, right. No, yeah. Of course it is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep telling yourself that, right?
And like I had a lot of bad experiences with that. Like anytime that I was trying to be something that I wasn't, it just never worked out that well. And I can think of like some pretty awesome failures of, we talked about them. I mean, I worked in a high profile kitchen. I got fired, Right. I was on scholarship at a college for music for a period of time. I lost blew it up because like I was trying to will those things into existence. And also I wasn't ready for those things, and so, I wake up every day. I put my big boy pants on one leg at a time, like everybody else. And I just try to work the problem and continually check in with your motives and,
compass. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're still in this for the right reasons. We're still, okay. We're still supposed to be here. There's still stuff coming in saying go.
Do this.
Go. Yeah. And I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, you gotta see it through,
you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, man, I said this at the beginning, I sort of at risk of overdoing it. I'm super stoked to have you here. I'm very grateful to have had the conversation and been able to spend the time with you. I mean, you came in like last night. Again, we got to share a meal, sit down. That's always a good start. We came in, we got the pre-podcast pump on out there on the workout floor.
Dude, yeah.
We went through the thing today. And then we got to sit down and talk. And I think probably more people need to do that in that order. Go have a meal with somebody, get a workout in, and then have some more conversation. I feel very privileged to have been able to sit and do this with you. I wish you all the best and all the things that are coming up for you, and that I know will continue based on your approach. It's just been while I am not all knowing and somebody out there is, or something out there is, I'm pretty confident things are going to go well for you. And with regard to the LowCountry Range Day thing, I'm super excited because I think, again, going back to my involvement with some things and visiting others, this is being done for the right reasons. And those are going to be different reasons for different people, but as long as you stick to that and you don't waver, I don't imagine that you will. I think it's going to be an awesome fucking event for everybody that goes. And I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate it so much, and just the opportunity to come on and like share my story. You know, like you don't see a lot of like rescue swimmers getting to. Most of us are at work, so I'm just honored to be here to like share some of the stories and my experiences. Like on behalf of my brothers, and
right.
I can tell you that if you're a young guy out there and you're wondering where your place is, I would say give it a hard look. Coast Guard aviation is a really good life. Something that you can do. You can make a difference in and really be a part of something. It was super special for me. I know that we're hurting for dudes, but if anybody's ever interested, please reach out, hit me up.
Oh, nice.
I'm happy to help dudes get there.
Nice. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for helping me through some of the stuff you've already helped me with. And like I said, I can't wait to see how things go for you. So if there's anything I can do in the future to help you with the things that you're doing and the experiences that you're having and what you're trying to get done with those, you know where to find me, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yep. Likewise.